Hello. Hey guys, those just joining, would love for you to put your videos on so I can see you. We're gonna have people joining now for the next few minutes.
Yo, coach, how you doing?
Hello, buddy. Who's that? Duanada. I am well. I'm not sure who that was. Is that you, Duanada? Duananda. Okay. Hello, guys. Anyone who's joining, would love to see your faces. If you don't mind adding your, turning your video on, that would be great. Otherwise, I'm just staring at myself, and that's always a bit weird. Duananda, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. How you
Awesome.
doing?
Where are you from?
I'm from Indonesia.
Awesome. Whereabouts?
Jakarta.
Amazing. Which gym do you train at?
Been 6, 7 years coaching for 30 clients right now, online, offline, but one day I want to meet you in person, man. Such an inspiration.
Thank you, buddy. That would be
Keep up the good
awesome.
work.
That would be amazing. Well, listen, I sometimes do go to Jakarta because we have a gym, an affiliate gym down there. So next time I go, are you in Jakarta?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
amazing. Send me a message on Instagram after this so I have your contacts and then we can stay in contact for when I'm next down there.
sure. Thanks, man.
Amazing.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining, buddy. Just gonna say hello to everyone else who's here. Uzma, Yukai, JC. Thank you guys for joining. Would love to see your faces if you're open to turning your cameras on. Hello, everyone. Hello, Adele.
Hello.
I thought I'd catch you on the ferry. All right, guys. Tell me where everyone's from. We'll start with you, Uzma.
Yes. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And how are you?
Yeah. So I attended your session last week as well, and I found it very helpful. So that's why I'm here again.
Amazing. Are you
Yep.
are you with BT, right, in Pakistan?
Yeah. Yes, I'm with him.
Awesome. Yes, I remember you from last week. Is any of the team coming?
I think so. I have. Yes, they will be.
Awesome. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate it. Whoa, Tamarind. JC, where are you, buddy? Is that you, Johannes?
Yes, it is. Yes. Hello.
Ah,
Ed.
JC.
Hello.
I was like, ooh, I feel like I know this guy. Good to see you, bud. How are you?
I'm all right. Thank you. Sorry, it's a bit loud where I am, and I'm about to get in the car. But yeah, I didn't want to miss this. Didn't want to miss it.
Awesome, buddy. Well, thank you so much for always being a part of the process. Super cool that you joined us. So yeah, you do your thing. You can just mute yourself if you feel like you're on the move. But I mean,
Cool. Are you coming down for what? Sorry, are you coming down in September?
Potentially, yeah, because
Okay.
we're programmed for 2 competitions and they happen to be on exactly the same weekend. So I'm either going to be in Jakarta or I'm going to be in Manila, one of the two. So I've just got to coordinate with that with Ant. So if I am, let's 100% catch up when you're there, and I'll see Duananda when I'm there as well. So we'll all catch up. Thanks for joining, buddy. Okay. So guys, for those who are just joining us, I mean, if you were here last week, then don't worry about this. But for anyone new, you'll just see on the chat box, I just put in something and I'd love 3 things from each of you. If you can give me your full name and then your email address and your Instagram handle, that would be much appreciated. That way we're going to send you a recording of this. We're going to send you loads of following up emails with more information and how you can learn more. So if you could just put those 3 things, if you don't have to share it with everyone, you can just share it with me. So you can just select who you're sharing that with, and that would be much, much appreciated. As I said, if you're here last week and you did it last week, then don't have to do it again. No worries at all. All right, I'm just going to make sure we're welcoming everyone here. Hello, Claudia. Is that the Claudia that I think it is? Hello, Meg. Hello, Tamarind.
Hello. Sorry, bit of background noise here, so I'm gonna let you do the things.
All right, no worries. No worries, Tam. Hello, Meg, again. Meg, I'm so stoked that you're going to be joining us in the July cohort. Awesome. Looking forward to that. Okay, Claudia. Show me your face, Claudia. Don't you hide behind that turned off camera, or else I'm going to give you a prompt, which is going to force you. Hello, Claudia.
Hi,
Whoa, hair today.
I know. Oh, I'm flying tonight, so I'm home today
Oh, nice. Where are you flying to?
to London for work.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, have a great trip, and thank you for joining us.
No, great. Glad to be here.
Awesome. If you don't want to keep your camera on, that's totally okay. But I just wanted to see your face at least for a few seconds.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, guys, we're just gonna. It normally takes around like 5-6 minutes for people to join the call, so I'm just gonna hang tight for the time being while everyone is jumping in. Adele, the Llama Ferry.
Hello.
You prefer to
Lantau
sit
Ferry.
indoors, the Lantau Ferry. You prefer to sit indoors? Is there an outdoors?
There's no outdoor option.
Oh.
We're not on the fast ferry. Look, it's a nice view. Oh, I don't know how to change it.
Oh, well,
There you
it
go, lovely day.
very nice for you.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. Okay, right. Just checking in. Who got here? Thank you, Tananda, for sharing that. Adele, gotcha. Cool team. I actually realized that on my countdown timer on Instagram, I put the wrong time. So that could have thrown people off. But anyhow, you guys made it, so it can't be all that bad. Oh, Jack, welcome.
Hi, Ed.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
So, please go.
I'm just recovering from COVID. That's why I'm
Oh,
stuck at
no.
home. Yeah.
Are you fully recovered? Almost recovered?
Yeah, I'm all right. It's just that the ART is still not single line.
Oh no, you got a faint double.
Yes.
All right, buddy. Well, I hope you heal up and recover soon.
Yes, thank you.
I
Nice
appreciate
to
you
be-
being here, though, buddy. Really cool.
Nice to be here.
Okay, Jack, I think I have your contact details already anyway, but regardless, if you could do me a favor and everyone else who's just joining us right now, in the chat box, I just put down a quick message for you guys to share with me if you don't mind. I'll send it again. If you can send me that personally on this chat box, that would be great. And then, we're going to follow up and send you guys a recording of this and more information should you need it, and just give you guys, give us a chance to kind of stay in contact with you guys. So if you could do that, if you weren't here, if you were here last week, then don't worry about it. But if you're not, and it's your first time, then please share that with us. Just going to say hello to a few more people. Hello, Ivan. Hello, Topher. Thank you guys for joining. If you guys, I think Ivan, you messaged and said you're getting a haircut right now, so we don't need to see that. But I hope the haircut goes well. Toph, show us your lovely face, please, sir, if you are there. Oh, and yes, I'm getting the head massage. Hello, Toph. Thanks for joining.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys, there's still a few more people rolling in, so I'm just going to give this another couple of minutes, and then we're going to dive into the case study, and we're going to get straight into it. Because if you noticed, we hadn't noticed, it's a slightly longer case study today, so it's going to take us a little bit longer to create that first week. Okay, other people going to say hello to. Hello, Mrs. Chris Toison.
Hello, and hi everybody.
How are you?
Good. It's a very sunny, hot day here in the Pearl River Delta region, which is nice, but I'm very sweaty, so I'm dealing with that.
Yeah. You're pretty sweaty on a cold winter's day as well, so I'm sure you're.
That's true. That is very much true. Thanks for sharing that for me, Ed.
That's okay. You're very welcome. By the way, guys, if you didn't know, Chris is a part of the education team. He is responsible for all the back end stuff. He does loads of great work with maintaining the website, maintaining our course, making sure it's up to date, and all the back and forth connectivity with our students and prospective students. Chris is the man who does that all. Okay, I think we should get started. Let's do it. Okay. Right, so guys, if at any point in time you guys have anything, can you guys hear me? Chris, were you just doing this? Everyone can hear me? Okay, good. Okay, cool. If at any point in time, guys, you have questions, thoughts, you can just chuck them in the chat box. I'll have Chris just kind of go over this every now and then, and at the end, I'll answer like any grand questions. But if I'm going along and you have a question, you kind of want to just stop me because it's something you really want to know, then please let me know, and I will make sure I stop and answer your question. Okay, I'm going to do a little share screen now to my presentation. Okay, let's get into this. So first things first, I've already said this a few times, but if you're just joining and you didn't see this before, if you are joining for the first time, would love to see these 3 pieces of information just so we can stay in contact with you and follow up at the end of this call. The objective of today's webinar is we are going to talk about how to write an individual training program. So we have set a case study, which we have shared on multiple different platforms. So hopefully you guys have had a chance to read that. And if you haven't, do not worry, we're going to go through it together. Once we have reviewed the information from the said client in a case study, we're going to identify priorities. We're going to create a framework for how to write a program. And then we're actually going to write their first week of programming. That is the goals today. And I'm going to take you through each step of the way and basically give you guys a bit of a framework on what you can do to start writing your own programs or start doing a better job with the programs that you write. Of course, if you're really interested in learning more and geeking out and leveling yourself up, if you're a coach or someone who's just interested in this kind of stuff, then we have the individual coaching course, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later at the end of this call. But we do have our next cohort starting on the 11th of July, not 11 days. That is 8 days. Okay, let's get straight into the case study. I'm just going to minimize this. All right, here's what we have today. So for those of you who joined last Wednesday, we had a male client. This time we have a female, a younger client, and there's some quite stark differences with this training, with this client and what we have found from their assessment. Now, in terms of their assessment, obviously in this call, we're not going to go through the assessment process. On the individual coaching course, we teach an assessment process that you can use with pretty much any client and get all the data that you need to make a start on writing their programs and actually, starting that journey with them. So for today, I'm going to kind of brief you over very briefly what the assessment findings are and what that means. And then we're going to take that and put it into the program design. So let's have a quick read of this. I'm going to say it anyway, just kind of pick out some main things. But if you can see my screen, you prefer to read it, then go ahead and read it. If you're someone who likes to write notes or take notes as you go along, feel free to kind of pick out the main things that you're seeing here. I think that's the beauty with program design is there's no right or wrong way to do it. It is often in the eyes of the beholder, but as long as we can justify the reasons for what we're programming or what we're giving to a client, that's all we're really after. So the way that I program today, you might see that and be like, I might have done something different. I'm not sure why I did that, but I will make sure I justify everything that I do. So it makes sense, at least in my mind. And then, feel free to challenge me, question me, provide counters, etc. So, either you can just listen or you can kind of write your own program as you go through this. So let's have a look at our client here. Her name is Sarah Marshall. And she has 5 years of weight training experience. Now, when we say 5 years of weight training experience, this means she has actually been following a periodized program, strength and conditioning program, under the tutelage of a coach. I want to just say this again. Sometimes people kind of venture into a Globo gym. They do a bit of kind of machine-based training. They don't really know what they're doing. That for me doesn't really contribute to someone's weight training experience if they haven't been kind of progressively overloading it and sticking to consistently over a period of time. So this person is what I would call kind of between a novice to intermediate lifter. So what I'm going to take from that is she kind of has pretty decent awareness of how to use her body. She knows her way around the gym. She's comfortable in the weights room. And so, you know, you can kind of draw your own kind of pictures from that. But this is definitely not someone who's entering the gym for the first time, unlike the client we had last week. Okay, lifestyle and training background. She ran track at college, specifically the 400 and the 800 meters. She followed a strength and conditioning program whilst at college. She's also completed 3 marathons over the last 6 years. She's completed 2 12-week body transformations 2 years ago. She works currently as a lawyer. She works 9 hours a day sitting at a desk. Works from home on weekends when work is busy. So 6 to 8 months out of the year, she's working 6 to 7 days. So you know, we can assume she's a fairly busy individual. Her current activity level when she's coming to us as our coach, she currently does not do any resistance training. And she does Pilates once a week, and she does a 45 to 60-minute run once per week. So if I'm going to just pull some big things there, kind of summarize some things, is she has weight training experience, but it's been a while. You know, if she did that at college, we're going to assume she finished college at, let's say, 21. She's now 32. So it could be 10 to 11 years since she's been doing, you know, really consistent strength and conditioning. However, she's done 2 12-week body transformation challenges. So what that tells me is often body transformation challenges, you know, take more of a bodybuilding approach, typically associated with like aggressive hard dieting. So like, you know, kind of operating in a caloric deficit. And maybe if I was to draw some conclusions from here, you know, the fact she's done body transformations and right now she's not doing any training, is this might be a person who's potentially kind of goes all in for short periods of time and then struggles to be consistent with it. And that's probably why she's in a place where she's not doing any resistance training right now. Obviously, other things we have to think about is she's super busy with her work and she's pretty sedentary. She's not getting much movement in her day. She sits at a desk in this position for long hours, even on weekends. We can assume that work stress is high as well. So, you know, if we were really to do a thorough, you know, intervention with this client, then we would definitely have to look at things like nutrition, stress management, sleep, and all that kind of stuff. But for the sake of this call, we're not going to dive into that. We're just going to talk about the resistance and gym-based training side of things. She is doing Pilates once a week, so it's good. She's definitely getting some form of like body weight loaded movement in there, and she's getting some aerobic activity just once a week. Okay, let's go to some more information about our client. Let's talk about her goals. So she's been experiencing lower back and neck pain associated with sitting at a desk. She wants to reduce this pain. She wants to feel strong and athletic again. She plans to have a family in the future, wants to be active with her children and set a good example for her kids. She'd also like to reduce body fat and increase muscle mass as she currently does not feel confident in her own skin. I think when you look at this, this is probably a pretty good depiction of what a lot of clients that we work with are dealing with, right? There's some form of, you know, insecurities around the way they look, and they want to, you know, boost confidence, and they associate confidence building with increasing lean muscle mass and reducing body fat mass. Not saying that's necessarily right or wrong, but, you know, this is what the client is coming to us with. You know, she's felt athletic, but she's not feeling athletic again. So, you know, when I think about the word athletic, well, what does that really mean? When I look back at what athletic might have meant to her in the past, like she was a track athlete. So she was running, she was jumping, she was sprinting, she was using her body in very primal style movements. If I'm going to draw conclusions there, I want to make sure that we're trying to get her back to doing that kind of stuff, you know. Then the next thing is she wants to have a family in the future, wants to be active with her children. So what does her training need to look like if she wants to be active with her children? Well, you know, in my opinion, if you know you've got children, you want to play with them, like you want to pick them up, you want to chase them around, you want to potentially play sports in the garden, you know, whatever adventures and things that your kids are learning, you want to be a part of that journey too. So for me, what I want to make sure I'm including there is I want to just make sure we're addressing the fundamental movement patterns, right? We've got to make sure she can squat, she can lunge, she can hinge, she can press, she can push. And we've got to be able to do those in all different planes of movement, because that's probably going to have the most carryover to her life. And then, of course, the reduced body fat and increased muscle mass. Well, you know, as a coach, that's where nutrition lifestyle is going to have to be something we address and look into. So that would have to include things like food diaries, sleep profiles, stress management profiles, all kind of stuff that we dive into on the course. But for the time being, what does that mean in terms of what her training needs to look like? Well, in my opinion, if she wants to increase muscle mass, we have to do resistance training, right? We've got to be building some muscle mass on her full body. You know, is there a place for conditioning work? You know, I'd say, yeah, most times, you know, aerobic conditioning is important for life. You know, that leads more into, you know, wants to be active, wants to be athletic, wants to be able to play with their kids. That for me is more of a reason why we might include energy system training in there. I would not incorporate energy system training if the goal is just to lose weight. You know, that is very counterintuitive to, I think, what a lot of coaches are doing, which is, oh, client wants to lose weight, we've got to beast them and make sure, you know, we're working them really, really, really hard. But doesn't necessarily have to be the case. You know, if you're making smart changes to nutrition and diet and getting some form of regular training and resistance training, then, you know, they should be able to increase lean muscle mass, reduce body fat. Okay, last little thing that we've got to read into here, experiencing lower back and neck pain. Now, we can probably assume why this might be happening. She sits at a desk for really long periods of the day. So let's talk about the lower back pain firstly. You know, we're sitting in this position. You know, typically our pelvis is probably sitting in what we call an anterior pelvic tilt. So basically think we're kind of arching our back up this way or slouching. So we basically kind of emphasizing that curve in the lower back, and the core isn't doing much to kind of stabilize the spine. And then let's talk about the neck pain. So we're sitting at a desk. A lot of us have this kind of kyphotic posture where the shoulders are rounded, upper back is rounded, head is forward. So for me, if we're going to try and unwind some of that, then we probably have to think about prioritizing pulling movements a little bit more than pressing movements. Like definitely want to be doing things that are moving it this way, you know, whether it's horizontal pulling, you know, upper back work, and probably trying to loosen up everything on her anterior chain so that we can start to pull her posture back a little bit. So anything on the posterior chain training wise, you know, lower body and upper body, it's probably going to be a good thing for her. Okay, we've got two last pieces of information we've got to dive into. Number one, training frequency. We've got 2 sessions a week with Sarah. We've got session number 1 on Monday, and we've got session number 2 on Friday. So that's all we've got to work with. And we're going to assume that these are 2 60-minute sessions that she's going to do with us as her coach. Okay, so we just got to think, we don't have 2 hours to try and fit everything in. We just got a 60-minute session. We have to think about that in the program design. Now, there's a few things in the assessment that we have picked out. Number 1, she failed the overhead assessment. So the overhead assessment is basically where we ask the client to place her back against the wall, bring the PVC pipe, and we take a measurement as to how far close we can get that PVC to the wall. So her hands are 6 inches from the wall. So if you imagine that she's side on and she's kind of stopping around here, she's not able to get a full shoulder flexion. She has what we call kyphotic posture. So that upper back is a little bit rounded. That kind of makes sense why she's not getting those arms up to the wall. And when we think about the fact she sits at a desk all day, okay, this is maybe not very surprising that she failed this assessment. Next one, active single leg raise. So imagine you're lying on your back and you're lifting one leg. You're trying to bring it up to 90. She only could hit 60 degrees on both legs. So she can't get her legs all the way up to sky when she's lying on her back. She's kind of at this position. So that for me can mean 2 things. It could mean maybe the posterior chain, hamstrings, glutes, lower back. Maybe there's some tension, lack of flexibility on that side. But it could also mean that her anterior chain, so the hip flexors, abs, quads are weak and they're not able to pull herself up. Now, the reason I'm going to go with the latter here is that there is no indication that she failed her toe touch. So the toe touch is when you just hinge forward and touch the floor. So if she was not able to touch the toes or touch the floor, and she could only do a 60 degrees single leg raise, well then it's probably going to be a combination of trying to, you know, increase range of motion in her posterior chain and strengthen her anterior chain. But because she passed her toe touch, it's probably not a flexibility limiter in her posterior chain. And it's probably, we've got to do some form of hip flexion strengthening work. Does that make sense, everyone? Love it. Okay, cool. Sorensen hold. So we have a standard of 60 seconds in a Sorensen hold where a client is holding themselves out on a GHD or on a bench. She can only do 45 seconds. So again, indicative weak posterior chain isn't enduring enough to hold 60 seconds. Side plank, she did 45 seconds on her right side, but she needed 30 seconds on her left side. So definitely got a bit of an imbalance from one side to the other. Our gold standard is about 60 seconds. So cool little things from the assessment here. Does anyone want to quickly go back to the last slide and have a quick look? I'm just going to go back anyway. I'm going to give you guys just kind of 30 seconds just to run your eyes over this one more time. Make sure we're building a really good picture of who this client is and, you know, what it is that it might need. And then let's go to part 2. Give you guys another 30 seconds or so just to reread over this, pick out any main pieces. Okay, love it. Right, let's go ahead and start trying to write this program, shall we? Okay, so there are 3 steps that we're going to go through today in terms of what we need to do before we actually start writing this program. Step number 1, we need to complete a GPS for this client. I'll teach you guys what a GPS is. It's basically our acronym for 3 steps: general, priorities, and structure. Once we completed the GPS, step 2 is we're then going to write the exercises for session 1 and session 2 based upon our GPS. And then step 3 is once we've written our exercises for our 2 programs, we're then going to fill in the reps, sets, tempo, rest, coach's notes, all that good stuff. And then hopefully by that point in time, we have 2 training sessions that she's ready to rip into in week 1. Sound good? Okay, let's do it. I'm going to quickly just change my screen share. Okay. Right. So can everyone see my new screen? Okay, for simplicity purposes, what I've actually done, I've actually gone ahead and kind of made a start on the GPS just so we don't spend loads of time writing this all out. So let's go through this. Step 1, we know we have to write a GPS. So what that means, it's 3 things. It's general. For example, how many sessions a week are they doing? How long's the cycle? What do we kind of focus on? What type of training split are we going to use? That's what we mean by the general part. When it comes to priorities, well, what are the main priorities that we want to make sure we're addressing in this client's program? So in this case, it's going to be things like, you know, she wants to get strong, she wants to be athletic, she wants to change body composition. That's stuff that will go into general, but the specific things are things like her assessments, like what are the things she failed with, or what are the things we need to prioritize and address, what are the movements that we need to get in, etc. When we go to structure, this is where we actually start writing our very first template as to what each session is going to look like. So for example, session 1 might be, okay, we're going to get squatting pattern here, pulling pattern, single leg, side plank. Session 2 might be hinging, etc., etc., etc. So that's basically what we mean by GPS. We're going to fill that in together now. So I'm going to scroll down. Okay, so I basically made a start on this. And I'll explain my reasons, but I made a start on this to allow us to kind of just get stuck into the actual program design. So in terms of general, here's what we've got. We've got 2 sessions a week. I decided to make this a 6-week program. Now, again, I could have made this a 4-week program. I could have made this an 8-week program, but as a general rule of thumb, if someone is a little bit more kind of intermediate to advanced with their training, you know, we can afford to play with slightly shorter training cycles. The reason being is that for those who joined last week, remember we talked about when we have beginners, a lot of our initial time is spent in the motor control phase of learning, right? So what that means is that our clients, when they're first lifting weights, they're not actually getting many strength benefits for a while. And instead, they're really just learning how to control the dumbbells or how to move their body in space. So it's much more what we call a technique adaptation. But because this client has been training for 5 years already, you know, and they followed a comprehensive S&C program, we're not probably going to have as many of those, we're not going to have to dedicate as much time to motor control learning. So we can kind of get stuck into the weeds straight away, and probably do as something like a 6-week program will probably be pretty good. There's definitely going to be a bit of a resistance training bias. Reason being, when we look at her assessment and some of her goals, a lot of those things can only be achieved through resistance training. She is currently running already for once a week for 45 to 60 minutes, and she's doing Pilates. So she is kind of doing some low intensity aerobic work, which I'm pretty happy with. So for me, for the time being, for a very first cycle, I'm going to make this really just focus on resistance training. Maybe as she gets stronger and we start to kind of fix her imbalances, or, you know, and accomplish some of her goals, we might look to add maybe energy system training into her program in the future. Okay, because she got 2 days. Remember, we're training on a Monday and a Friday. Friday is her critical day. So what we mean by the critical day is which of the 2 days is our client going to feel more fresh? Which of the 2 days is she going to be able to give more to the session? Now, one could argue, well, Fridays, you know, she's a lawyer, she works pretty hard, she might actually be more fatigued by the time a Friday rolls around. But I'm kind of looking at this more from the perspective of how many rest days is she having before each session. So because she's training Monday and Friday, on a Monday, she's only got 2 rest days. She's got Saturday and Sunday, and then she's training again. Whereas on a Friday, she's got Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So on Friday, she's got 3 rest days before the session. Monday, she's got 2 rest days before the session. So for me, Friday is a day where we can probably stack harder, more challenging, more intense training. And maybe Monday will probably make ever so slightly less. Something else I should add here is we're going to be doing FBR. So we're going to do full body resistance training. So there are lots of different splits that we can use with clients. We can do upper body and lower body. We can do kind of front of the body. We can do the back of the body. We can do bro splits. We can do, you know, biceps, triceps, shoulders on one day. We can do calves, quads, hamstrings on another day. But the reason I'm going to go with FBR is that because we only have 2 training sessions a week, right? So if we did something like an upper and a lower body split, not saying it wouldn't be successful or effective, but it would mean that she's having to wait a whole week before she gets back to doing that muscle group again. And for someone, again, who's had a lot of time out, who's, you know, still novice intermediate, you know, she's not going to be able to probably create enough intensity and damage to her tissues where she needs to really warrant 6 days of rest. Would you guys agree with that? So instead, I'd rather give my beginners or intermediates or even novices kind of more frequent touches on muscle groups versus, you know, upper and lower body splits or bro splits. I shouldn't say bro splits, bodybuilding splits. You guys know what I mean. Okay, her goals, little reminders: reduce lower back, neck pain, feel strong and athletic, be able to play, be active with children in the future, improve body composition. So I just kind of written that down just to remind me when I'm writing a program that these are the things we need to make sure we're focusing on. Okay, let's go into her priorities. So that's the G taken care of. Now we're getting into the P. We need to improve thoracic extension. So right now she's kyphotic, right? She's got a bit of a rounded upper back. We're going to try and improve this and hope that that's going to offset some of her back and neck pain. Along with this, we definitely need to work on her core, midline / bracing. If she's experiencing lower back pain, again, there's so many more assessments we could do here, but we're going to make the assumption, given the fact she sits in a chair all day, that probably her midline's not doing a whole amount of work to support things like her spine and her midline structures. Or maybe she has a strong core because she's doing Pilates, but she's not really aware of how to use that actively during her day. We're going to do an upper body pulling bias. Reason being, if she's sitting all day in this position, I want to start to include some more exercise in her training where she's doing kind of more retraction of scapula and pulling towards her versus doing pushing work. If we're doing more pushing work, we might just be kind of exasperating the imbalance that she has between pull and push right now. So I definitely want to make sure I've got some form of bias towards pulling work. I definitely want to improve her active single leg raise because that's something in her assessment that she wasn't very strong on. And if we can improve her ability to, you know, lift her leg up more by strengthening the anterior chain, you know, that's also going to help with her posterior pelvic tilt, right? So right now she has an anterior pelvic tilt, hips are kind of shifting backwards. If we can build some strong hip flexors, it's going to help pull her pelvis back to neutral, hopefully offset some of that back pain. I want to achieve a 60-second Sorensen hold because that's just our gold standard. And, you know, being able to hold your body weight in this for 60 seconds in this position is going to mean that we've got decently healthy glutes, hamstrings, and erectors in the more shortened positions. That for me is important, especially given some of her pains that she's experiencing. And for sure, I want to try and iron out some of these imbalances. She's able to hold 45 seconds on one side, but only 30 seconds on her other side. And again, this all comes back to her midline. If we can make that stronger, that's going to be better for her, and just try and get her as balanced as possible. Everyone agree on the priorities so far? Okay, let's get into it. So what we now need to do is we're now going to get to the S. So this is not the time where we're going to start writing, sets, reps, all that kind of stuff. This is, for me, is where we're just going to write the very basic structure of what I want to do in each of our sessions. Now, Monday is not her critical day, so that's a mistake. I will remove that. Friday is her critical day. So the way that I'm going to do this, and I want to kind of, for those who didn't join last week, the reason I'm doing this just on like a Google document is because lots of us use lots of different softwares for programming. Some of us may have, an online software. Some of us might use spreadsheets. Some of us might even just handwrite them on pieces of paper. I wanted to show you that I'm going to do the most no frills variation of programming, so that you guys can kind of take this and run with it however you want. So typically, we'll deliver all of our individual programs through an app that we use, which is called WhatUp. So that's how we deliver it to our clients. But sometimes, the idea generation process of running a program starts with just a piece of paper or a blank sheet. So that's what we're going to do for today. Okay, so while I'm going through this, I might be writing things, I might be backspacing things, I might be moving things around as I go. I might be changing my mind as I go through it, but that is exactly what the programming process often looks like for me. We rarely get it right the very first time. Okay, so let's think about some of the things that we really need to make sure that we're getting in her program. Okay, so because we're going FBR, both sessions are going to be full body, right? So that one thing I can definitely put in there straight away is I want some form of upper body pulling in both sessions, right? Because we said that's something we need to bias in her training. So I want that definitely in both sessions. I don't know what that's going to look like just yet, but we will. Now, on a critical day, she wants to be athletic. I'm going to think about when it comes to selecting exercises and muscle groups, I often think about exercises and muscle groups based upon which muscles recruit the most, which muscles contribute the greatest amount to our whole body. So when we think about the muscles that recruit the most, or demand the most per repetition, or in terms of just size on our body, so that's the way I should say it, the biggest muscles in our body, that's a much easier way to look at it. Glutes and hamstrings, massive contributors to how much muscle mass they can contribute to the body. So glutes and hamstrings probably going to be the most amount of muscle mass. The next amount of muscle mass is going to be biggest is going to be our quads. They contribute a lot as well. The next biggest amount of muscle that contributes to the body is going to be my lats, right? The lats contribute a big division of the upper body. Next biggest contributor is probably going to be my pecs, right? So if we think about that, we've got biggest muscle group, we've got the glutes, hamstrings. Next biggest muscle group is going to be the quads. Next biggest muscle group is going to be the lats. Next biggest muscle group is going to be the pecs. So I want to make sure, because her goal is body composition, building muscle, I want to make sure I'm hitting her two biggest muscle groups, as much as I can in her training. And then I fill in the gaps, right? So once I've got my lats done, I've got my pecs done, then we can start to think about the other muscles like the delts, the calves, the biceps, the triceps, those smaller muscles which don't really contribute anywhere near as much to caloric burn or, overall strength development. So just kind of want to share that little caveat with you guys. So I definitely want to get some form of lower body movement in there, right? This girl wants to be active again. She wants to be strong. She wants to be athletic. I definitely want some form of hinging in there. And I'm going to put her hinging work probably into her second day, her critical day. Reason being is we know that her active single leg raise was weak. So I want to do kind of more hip flexion bias work on the day where she feels stronger. So if I'm just trying to keep this a little bit more balanced, I'm going to put squatting on day one. Now, in terms of a lower body, when we look at the assessment, there was nothing that really said that we needed to create a bias towards squatting or hinging. She was actually pretty balanced. She also doesn't have any imbalances from right to left leg. So in that sense, we can kind of keep this program quite balanced. So we might do some form of, we've got squatting there. We might do some form of like, what are we thinking? We've got hinging here. So I want to do some form of like glute, maybe more in a shortened position. So that for me is going to be things like glute bridges, calves bridges, GHC hip extensions. Oh, we definitely got the Sorensen hold. that we need to do. So I might even say, is this going to be a Sorensen? So we've got hinging. Okay, good. I'm probably going to put some single leg. I want to probably get some form of lunging pattern in there. So now when I look at my lower body work, I'm comparing these two. I've got squatting and I've got glutes. I've got in their shortened position. I've got hinging and got single leg lunge. So if I look at my lower body stuff over the 2 days, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm ticking all the boxes. I've got a squat pattern. I've got a hinge pattern. I'm doing the Sorensen hold, which is one of the priorities that we picked up from assessment. Do I need more lower body work in there? I think for now, I'm pretty content with that. Let's go to the upper body. Okay, cool. So we've got upper body pulling. Now, I haven't really specified what that is, but I'm going to say that's probably going to be horizontal. And then why don't we go into some vertical pulling here? So that might be a cable pull down. It might be a pull up. I don't know what our strength levels are like, but I'm just going to get that in there. Now, because I really want to do, and I'm going to vertical, and I'm going to say this is going to be lat focused. I'm also going to get some upper body pulling horizontal, but I'm going to have this be upper back. So that's going to be things like the rhomboids, the rear delts, upper back to basically help retract her shoulders and pull her back into this position. So I'm getting 2 pressing pieces into a preamp. Now, on this one as well, horizontal, I'm going to go lat focused. You know, I want to get the biggest muscles in there first. I might go another upper body pulling, but this time I'm going to go vertical, upper back focus. So on both training days right now, I've got some form of horizontal and some form of vertical, but one of those movements is focusing on the lats and the other of the movements is focusing on the upper back. So I'm not hitting the same movement necessarily twice. Does that make sense, guys? So now, again, reviewing this, what have we got? Legs, all good. I've got upper body pulling. Now, question is, do I need any upper body pressing? Now, we said that, you know, she has a fairly kyphotic posture. Maybe therefore we don't need to include upper body pressing. But for me, I still think it's important, right? She wants to be athletic. She wants to be able to play with her kids. Maybe instead of doing this movement where she's pushing forward, we can do some pressing movements where we are thinking about other planes of movement. So maybe we're going to go with a vertical press here. So that might be in my, yeah, I'll leave that there, vertical press. And here I might go with a dip. Why I'm picking a dip pattern here is if she's sitting in this position all day, hands in front of her body, the dip is going to help work on her shoulder extension, which is also going to help bring the shoulders back. So rather than doing something like a horizontal press, like a bench press or a dumbbell press or a push-up, I'm going to go with the dip just to kind of unload really this plane of movement. Now, obviously, like, is she going to be strong enough to do a dip? You know, this girl hasn't really been training in a really long time. Dips are a pretty challenging exercise for the shoulder girdle. I'm not sure she's going to be able to handle it. So let's just be a little bit smart about this. I'm going to go with the decline press. The reason I'm going to go with the decline dumbbell press is decline dumbbell press versus a flat press is going to ask more of the shoulders in extension. So a decline press to me is a really good kind of stepping stone towards getting someone towards a dip because of the deeper angle of shoulder extension. So I'm going to throw in a decline dumbbell press. Now, let's re-review. Pretty happy that I think I've now taken care of her lower body movements. I've taken care of her upper body movements. Now, does Sarah warrant things like bicep curls, tricep extensions, calf raises? In my opinion, she doesn't. She's only training twice a week. I want to hit the most bang for the buck exercises. They're going to create the most return on investment. If she increased her frequency to maybe 3 times a week, then maybe I might consider adding things like biceps, triceps, delts, calves, all the fun little accessory work that we start to do. But for me, 2 sessions a week, she doesn't, in the nicest way possible, Sarah, you don't deserve to be doing bicep curls and tricep extensions, unfortunately. I'm sorry. Okay. Now, what haven't we addressed here, guys? We have not addressed some of our other things from assessments. We have not addressed hip flexion. So we've got to get some form of that in. So hip flexion. So that might be things like L-sits. It might be like isometrics, something where we're basically bringing her knees up towards her chest and developing strength in that position. And another thing we haven't addressed is the side plank. We need to get that side plank better, right? Okay, let's just have a quick review. Have we hit everything? Okay, her assessment, she failed the overhead assessment. So, glad I reread that. So, because she failed the overhead assessment. So think about this, guys. Our client cannot put her arms over her head. Now, should I be doing vertical pressing? Should I be doing pure overhead pressing with this client if she can't put her arms over her head? I'd probably say no. We probably shouldn't be going loaded vertical pressing until she can actively get her arm into that position. Reason being, if we start loading that overhead position and she doesn't have the mobility, she's going to have to compensate somewhere else. And where do people typically compensate when they lack overhead range of motion? They'll typically compensate in their back, right? Their lumbar will arch. And for someone who's already got lower back pain, could potentially be compounding the problem by making her press overhead. So vertical press, I'm going to keep it in there, but we're going to probably go with a high incline. So they're basically, that's going to be kind of like a shoulder press, but we're going to be setting her in something like a 70 degrees. So we're working kind of towards her end range, but not actually exacerbating the problem. Okay, guys, when I'm looking at that, I am pretty happy. We're addressing, the only thing we don't have right now is we are not addressing her overhead position. So from a mobility perspective, things I need to include is overhead and thoracic extension. And I probably want to include that on both days. Okay. So I think now when I look at this, we've got a pretty good starting plan to allow us to now go ahead and start writing her sessions. Would you guys agree? Cool. Awesome. Now, in this structure, I haven't put things like exercise order yet. That's just, I've just done a thought dump for all the things I want to make sure I get in each training day. Now, as I go to the next piece, I'm going to put this all together. Now is when we'll start to think about things like exercise order. So we need to, I'm going to put this up here. I'm going to zoom out a bit. Sorry, guys, so I can have a look and see everything. Okay. We're going to actually start to fill this thing in. Can you guys still see that? Is that okay? Okay. I'm going to start with the big bang for my buck stuff. I'm not going to worry about my mobility work just yet, but I know I'm going to do some form of mobility activation to start the session. So exercise order, something I am very anal on. You know, when we write training programs, anyone should be able to look at this training program and understand how it flows. So I always use, we always teach on the individual coaching course how to use exercise order, like the alphabet. We start with A, we work our way down to B, to C, to D, etc. So I'm going to start with some mobility activation work on both days. I don't know what that is yet, but I will at some point fill that in. Okay, now, session has to start with the most demanding exercises first. Most bang for your buck, most complex exercises. That's when our client is freshest. So when I look back at my structure here, I've got hinging. So I'm probably going to start with some form of deadlifting here. Now, it's her first cycle, first program with me. Something we always do as coaches is we try to get all the big fancy stuff out right from the start. And what happens when we do that, sometimes we make it too complicated. And B, it means that when we finish that training cycle, we've run out of exercises to use because we've used the most complex ones straight away. So a Romanian deadlift for me is always just such a great hinging exercise. If I can get someone doing Romanian deadlifts well, then it's going to be easy for me to transition to things like deadlifts later. Am I going to use a barbell or dumbbell? Given that she's just getting back into training, she's going to go with a dual dumbbell Romanian deadlift. Until she gets to a point where she can't grip those dumbbells anymore, then I'll probably move her to the barbell. Okay. What else we got now? We've got upper body pulling, horizontal lat focus. Okay, what else have I got? Decline pressing. Okay, cool. I'm thinking I might do an exercise pairing here. I'm going to go with a seated neutral grip cable row. I'm not going to worry about reps just yet. I was getting ahead of myself. Now I'm going to alternate this with a decline dumbbell bench press. The reason I'm going to alternate these two is I think that's quite a nice pairing. Whenever we alternate exercises or do things like supersets, we always have to think about what we call interference, right? So what we want for this client, we want minimal interference. So if I picked, a neutral grip cable row and an upper back cable pull down, there's going to be a lot of interference, right? I'm smashing the same muscles back to back. A grip is going to be working in both, and that's going to basically drive down the intensity exercise. So a seated cable row and a decline bench press are different enough that I think there's going to be much interference here. And because unlike our client last week, she's not a complete beginner, she's going to be able to deal with the slight more complexity of these exercises. D, we want to get some upper body vertical pulling. So I'm going to go with a pronated upper lat pull down, upper back focus. So what I mean by that, I'm going to create slight thoracic extension, and she's going to pull, retracting her elbows back. So we're going to be hitting the musculature of the upper back a little bit more. Okay, now let's look at my back of my exercises. I've done this. I haven't done my single leg. Oh, okay, cool. All right, now I've got some single leg work to do. Where can I slide that in? Okay, to be honest, I'm not going to alternate that with anything. So I'm going to go with a dumbbell goblet split squat. I'm going to throw that in here. That means I have to move this down, E. Okay. So now let's go back. I've done this. Happy. Okay. The only things I haven't done left now, I've got some hip flexion work to do. Okay. So let's do something super simple. I can probably pair this with my pronated lat pull down. E2. Let's go with something simple. We want to work on strengthening that. Let's go with what are we going to do? Let's go with a standing kettlebell on foot, bent knee isometric. So she's going to put a kettlebell on her foot. She's going to raise her knee up, getting tight, and she's going to hold that position at the top. Cool. All right. So we could have picked 100 different exercises for this, but for now, I'm pretty happy with what I have here. I'm ticking all the boxes. I can think of lots of different exercises as well, but this is for me is a good starting prescription. So that for me is session 2 done. Now let's go and finish off session 1. So we need to get some squatting and some glute shortened position here. So squatting, that's definitely gonna be the first exercise on my list because it's gonna recruit the most amount of muscle fibers out of all these other movements. So we're gonna go with something super simple here. We're gonna go the dumbbell goblet squat. Now, you know what? We did that last week. That's boring. Let's go with a front squat. Because I'm going to go the reason I'm going with the front squat is she has 5 years of training. She's done lots of strength and conditioning in the past. I'm assuming she's got good motor control and she's worked with the barbell. So let's be a bit more creative. Let's go with the front squat to start. Okay, we've got to do some form of glute shortening position. Remember, she failed her Sorensen hold. So we could think about lots of different other glute exercises, but why not just keep it simple and let's put Sorensen holds in our program. So I'm going to go Sorensen hold. But I don't know where it's going to go just yet. For me, the Sorensen hold is a great exercise, but the overall demand on the body is probably not that high relative to something like a front squat. So that might fall a little bit lower on my exercise order list. Okay, let's think about what other exercise we need. We've got upper body pulling, vertical, lat focus. Now, remember the lats, big muscle group. I want to prioritize that first. We got seated cable neutral grip rows, and we got pronated lat pull downs here. So I'm going to go with this seated neutral grip lat pull down. Now that could be an eccentric pull up. Now, you know what? We used lat pull downs last week. Now let's keep it. That's a good one. That's a good one. Okay, we're going to go lat pull downs. Now we've got to do some upper body pulling. We've got to focus a little bit more on the upper back. So we might go with, let's go change it up a little bit. Let's go incline bench, chest supported, dual kettlebell, rear delt row. That was a mouthful. But what we're going to do, we're going to be driving those elbows at a 45 degree past the body, focusing on that upper back. I think I just muted the right person. Okay, cool. Back we go. Okay, so we got upper back there. Now we haven't got any vertical pressing. Now remember we said in the vertical press, we are not able to do overhead pressing with this client yet because she doesn't have the range of motion. So let's think of another alternative. We could do some form of landmine press where we're kind of in a half kneeling or standing position. That's always a great substitute because without the landmine press, I love because the scapula is not pinned to the bench and the scapula can glide nice and freely. Or we can do something like a high incline bench. Let's go with a high incline bench just for simplicity's sake. We're going to go with a 70 degree semi-pronated dumbbell, dual dumbbell press. Now you'll notice I get really particular with things like what grip I'm using. Reason being is every grip that you choose, the way that you want your client to hold their dumbbells or barbell is going to recruit different muscle fibers. So if you don't specify what grips you want that client to use, number one, That's less specific. You have less control points in the program. Number two, it gives you less variation as you move forward. Now you could do a cable row and you could use a cable row for 6 different training cycles. And just each time you're changing the grip, which changes the feel of the movement, changes the muscles of the movement. So make sure when we're writing programs, guys, we are specific on exactly how we want that thing to be executed. So let's see, what else have I not missed? Have I missed so far? I've got everything. The only thing I don't have is side planks. Okay, now I'm looking at my exercise order here and I'm not that happy with this because it's a little bit messy and the order isn't set. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit. So we've got front squats. I definitely want to keep that first. Neutral grip pull downs. I love that. I'm going to keep that there. Now, I'm probably going to pair that with my incline press. So we've got C1 and C2. Again, there's not much interference between those 2 exercises. That works. And then we've got incline bench chest supported dual kettlebell rows. Okay, can that be alternating with side planks or Sorensens? Yes, because it's chest supported, which means that the core isn't having to do that much work, we could actually pair these 2 exercises together, an incline chest supported row with a Sorensen hold. Now, however, if this was a barbell bent over row or a dual kettlebell bent over row, this would not be a good pairing because the lower back, core, glutes, hamstrings are going to be involved in both exercises, and therefore that wouldn't really work. That's what we would call high interference. But because this person's chest supported now, which means the core's not having to do much work, this actually works. So there's another example of how you can kind of play around with execution and exercise to make sure you don't get interference. And then why don't we just finish with good old side planks by themselves at the end. Okay, quick review. Am I happy with that? Front squats, pull downs, incline, chest supported row. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, let's spread this out so it's a little easier to read. Okay, so remember, guys, this is the exact process that I'm going to go through when I'm actually writing programs for my clients, right? It's a bit of a jigsaw puzzle. You're kind of fitting things in, you're moving things around. I'm not moving on to the next piece until I feel satisfied that what I have is going to deliver the result. Okay. Before we get on to things like reps, sets, tempo, I'm just going to put some things down for my mobility activation work. So let's think about what we need to address for this client. This client is currently experiencing neck and back pain. Those are 2 main things, and you know they're weak in their single leg raise, but it's not a mobility issue. The Sorensen hold is not a mobility issue. The side plank is not a mobility issue. So for me, the things I really need to focus on is trying to open up their posture, so get them into a bit more thoracic extension. I need to then activate the thoracic. So let's think about that. If we're trying to get a client out of this rounded back posture and we're trying to get them to this, we need to do 2 things. Number 1, we need to find a way to loosen the tissues on the front of the body, which is pulling them into this position. Then we've got to find a way to activate the tissues on the back of the body to pull them up, right? So what a lot of people do here is they think, okay, let's just, lie on a foam roller and get them into thoracic extension. Not a bad exercise. What that's doing is kind of stretching open the front. It's getting a little bit of loosening of the tissues of the back, but it's not actually activating the thoracic because we're not asking the thoracic to pull the chest into that position. So those are 2 things we have to include in this mobility piece. She failed the shoulder assessment as well. So we probably got to do something to try and open up that overhead position. Now, when I look at this training session that I've written for her so far, there's quite a lot of volume in there, right? If we're going to squeeze this into 60 minutes, we're going to have to be moving pretty hard. So I don't have a ton of time to be doing this mobility work. So I'm going to just go for the most bang for my buck exercises that's going to address as many things as I want. So let me think of an exercise that's going to do a good job of opening up her shoulders and opening up her anterior chain of her body. I might go with a passive bar hang. I mean, hanging is just so good, isn't it? We've got body weight that's lengthening through the lat. So we might go with a passive bar hang. And then I might go with a plate pull over with isometric hold. So what I mean by, let's go bench supported. What I mean by bench supported plate pullover, I'm going to have her back on the bench. She's going to be holding a weight plate in her hand, and she's going to lower that weight plate over her head. And I'm going to actually get her to with thoracic extension. as she's in that stretch, I'm going to get her to actually extend her thoracic a little bit. So we're getting some shoulders and we're getting some thoracic. So I'm getting some loosening work there. And then I got to do something to actually activate her thoracic. So what I'm going to do here is, let's think of a good activation exercise that's simple for all of us. Let's go with because we've opened up her thoracic a little bit, we're going to go with a overhead. No, I'm not going to do that. We're not going to go that. We're going to go quadruped thoracic rotations. Super simple exercise, right? There's so many others we can pick. So I'm just going to get her in an all-4 position, and she's going to be actively rotating, but she's going to be holding at top with isometric hold. Okay, cool. So have I addressed everything? I've opened up her overhead position here a little bit. I've worked on it, opening up the front. Now, do I have time for some foam rolling? Release work. I could probably give her a quick few minutes. We're going to do 5 minutes where we're going to target lats, pecs. I'm probably even going to get her to roll her abs. So something with like a bigger roller where she can just kind of get into that front tissue to open her up a little bit. So I'm going to probably get her to do a quick bit of rolling on the front of her body, also the lats because they contribute to our overhead position. Quick bit of release work. And then she's going to go into a hang. And then she's going to go into a plate pullover, open up the anterior part, and then she's going to do some thoracic rotations. Okay, that for me is going to be 5 minutes of work at the start of the session. Cool. Now, again, we could have picked lots of different other exercises there. And I'm just going to, for simplicity's sake, I'm going to get her to do that in both sessions. Now, how I would actually do this with my client is in session 1, I would take her through this process, teach her how to do it. And then hopefully by the 3rd or 4th session, she feels comfortable enough to be doing it herself. So if possible, I say, if you're able to come in 5 minutes earlier before the session, get into your mobility activation work straight away so that we have a little bit more time to get into our resistance training. So that's kind of something I would like to teach her, give her autonomy so she can do that herself. All right, great. Activation stuff done. Now let's get into the training session. Remember, this client wants to build muscle. They want to lose body fat. They want to be resilient and strong. So we've got to think about what kind of rep ranges are we going to be playing with this client. Well, because this client is coming back after not doing strength training for a really long time, we have to respect the strength continuum. So what the strength continuum says is, for those who are beginner or have had more time away, generally speaking, we're going to play with higher volume, lower intensity work. So generally speaking, higher repetitions at lighter loads. The more time they accumulate with consistency, then we can start to increase intensity and drop the volume, right? Does that make sense, everyone? She has got strength training experience, so it's not going to take her long to get back to doing kind of heavier work because she's been out for so long. We've got to respect that. So for me, like strength training for Sarah is probably going to be, 6 to 8 reps. That's going to be the heaviest I'm probably going to go with her. And over time, maybe in a year or two's time, 6 to 8 might start to move to things like 3 to 5s, over time as her training age increases, as she starts to achieve more of a maximal physical potential, which are concepts we'll talk about in the course. So let's get into it. I'm going to start with her critical day because that's her most important day. So we've got dual dumbbell Romanian deadlift. We're going to keep the tempo slow here. I'm going to go 3 seconds down because I want to see control. I'm going to get her to pause at her end range. So she's developing strength there. 3, 1, 1, 1, 1. And we're going to go 3 times 10 reps. Nice and simple. Rest 2 minutes. Then she go into dumbbell goblet split squats. Remember, this is a very first session, so I don't need to be doing a crap ton of volume with her here. Again, I'm going to get her to do loads of slow time and attention, lots of eccentrics. Probably going to go 2 times 10 per leg. The reason I probably don't need more than 2 sets is just week 1, right? As we get into this, maybe we start to increase this to 3 sets over time. But for now, kind of going to do a bodyweight warm-up set, and then we're just going to hit 2 good sets. We're going to rest 1 minute between legs. Okay, seated neutral grip rows. Again, let's just keep this simple. I'm going to keep it 3 by 10. Rest 1 minute. And then decline dumbbell bench press. Let's be specific. I'm going to go with a 30-degree decline dumbbell bench press. I'm going to go with a neutral grip. The neutral grip is going to allow me to get even more range of motion at the shoulders versus a semi-pronated grip. I'm going to go 3 down. You know what? I'm going to stick a pause in the bottom position here. The reason I'm going to stick a pause in the bottom of a decline press, that's going to really work on improving her shoulder extension, which I think is going to be good. Again, getting her shoulders back. So I'm going to get a pause 1 second in the bottom, 3 times 10, rest 1 minute. Okay, then we've got some upper back work. Now, with the pronated upper back lat pull down, and we're arching the thoracic slightly, and we're driving the elbows back. Now, that is still going to hit the lats. So, you know, we can't think, oh, well, this is just going to be an upper back, a rhomboid rear delt exercise. Note, the lats are still going to be involved. And remember what we just did before that. We hit some neutral grip rows, so lats are probably going to be a little bit smoked. So I can't do too much here. I'm probably going to just do, again, I'm going to keep it super simple, 3, 0, 1, 0. I'm probably just going to go 2 sets of 12 here. The reason just 2 sets is because, again, her lats are probably going to be a little bit tired by this point in time. I'm going to keep it nice and simple. Rest 1 minute. And then she's going to go kettlebell, standing kettlebell on her foot, bent knee isometric, bent knee raise. Does everyone know what I mean by this, guys? She's standing tall, bracing her belly. She's lifting her knee up, and she's going to hold in that position. So I'm just going to go 2 times. Okay, I want her to accumulate at least 30 seconds in a set. So what I could do is just get her to do 1 rep of a 30-second hold. In fact, yeah, let's just do that. Let's keep it simple. 2 times 1, 30-second hold. Now, I could increase that. I could go kind of 45 seconds, you know, go a bit on the longer end, but for starting set, we'll just go 30 seconds. You know, over time, what I could do, I could change that to 2 sets of 3 reps, each rep being a 10-second hold, but, you know, allowing us a little bit of rest in between will allow us to be more intense. Okay, rest 1 minute. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that for session 2. So now let's go ahead and do session 1. Now, it's her first front squats in a while. She hasn't done these. I'm probably going to get her to throw some pauses in that bottom position. I'm going to get her to go 3 seconds down, 2-second pause as she's staying active in the bottom position, and then she's going to stand. Reason being, she hasn't squatted in a very long time. I really want to make sure I'm developing strength in her weakest positions, especially in this very fast cycle. Now, if we think about that, 3 seconds down plus 2, 5 seconds, 1 second up, 1 second. So that's a 7-second rep. That's quite a long time. So if I gave her 10 reps of this, that's going to be 70 seconds of work, which is going to be pretty brutal for poor Sarah. So rather than going for 10 reps here, I'm probably just going to make this. I'm going to still go on the slightly higher end. I'm going to get 8 reps. What's 8 times 7? I'm terrible at math. Someone help me. 8 times 8 is 64 minus 8. Is that 76? No, that's very wrong. Okay, sorry guys, can't continue until I do this maths.
6.
What is it?
56.
56. Thank you. Who is that? Thank you. Okay, 56.
Thank you, Meg.
Okay, that's under a minute. I'm okay with that. Okay, so we're gonna go rest 2 minutes. Also, guys, pretty much for all these exercises, they're gonna be building their loads through the sets. Okay, neutral grip lat pull downs. I'm not gonna get fancy. Let's not overcomplicate this. I'm gonna do exactly what I did for her row. So 3 by 10, 70. Okay, again, I'm gonna do pretty much exactly the same again. I don't need to get fancy. The reason I've got 3-second eccentrics pretty much for everything, guys, is I want her to develop control throughout the entire range of motion, especially because it's her first training cycle with us. Yeah, boom, boom, boom. Okay, incline supported rear delt row. Again, remember, even though we're doing a rear delt row, so I'm asking her to have her elbows a little bit out, 45-degree angle, so we can hit the upper back more. Her lats are still going to be involved, and her lats are probably going to be a little bit smoked by this point in time. So let's just do exactly what we did with the pull down. In fact, let's go, because the range of motion is going to be a little bit shorter, we'll go 2, 0, 1, 1. So 2 seconds down, 1 second up, and she's going to do a 1-second squeeze at the top. Okay, great. Sorensen hold. Now, in her assessment, she was only able to hold 45 seconds for 1 set. So we can't be programming more than 45 seconds because she won't achieve that. So what I'm probably going to do here is we're going to probably hit 20 to 30 seconds. So she can hit 2 sets of 30 seconds. She's accumulated 1 minute in the session. That's already more than she can do when she's fresh. So that's pretty good for me. Over time, I'll probably increase volume here till eventually we can get her to do 1 set of 60 seconds. And when she achieves that, okay, I can remove Sorensen holds from the program. Or maybe Sorensen holds will just become like a primer and a warm-up exercise. Same thing, side planks. In her assessment, she hit 45 seconds on the right side, but she only hit 30 seconds on the left side. So we've got to work off the weaker side here. If she could only do 30 on the left, you know, I'm probably going to be doing 2 sets of 20, let's even say 15 to 20 seconds, rest 1 minute between sides. Okay, so on here, I get her to work to 15, 20 seconds here. And I'm just going to get her to match that on her stronger side. Reason being, if I get her to, even though her other side can do 45 seconds, if I just allow her to do 45 seconds on one side, 20 seconds on the other, I'm just going to be making that imbalance worse and worse and worse. So for the time being, maintain strength on the strong side, bring up strength on the weak side. So over time, we start to close that gap between one side to the other. And that, guys, is a program that I think I would be pretty confident that by the end of the 6 weeks, we're going to start to make some really good progressions towards Sarah's goals. And again, kind of let's just backtrack now, how we did this. The process that we had to go through to get to here was all of this stuff at the start, right? I think as coaches, too often we just go to this stuff. You know, we sit in front of a spreadsheet and we think, okay, what exercises do I need to do for this person? And we start kind of writing things down, but then we kind of start second guessing ourselves. We're not sure if that's the right thing. We delete, and it takes us hours, and we get hours later, we have a program that we're still not satisfied with. And we kind of get into the program, get into our session and start changing shit up, you know, on the fly. So by going through this thorough process, and remember, by me doing this, that has now set me up for 6 weeks. And it may seem like a long process, you know, that has taken us, you know, a good part of 35 minutes. But now that you've done that, you know, we've now got clarity as we go ahead and we write this program in the future. So little reminders, remember what our steps were. Number 1, GPS. We've got to write those things down. Once we've filled out the general, then the priorities, the structure, we've got to take our time here. What are the general things we want to put in here? If you look at my structure, it's a bit all over the place. Sometimes I was just using movement patterns. Sometimes I was actually prescribing specific exercises. So, you know, you can be a bit more open and flexible in this process. And then when you get to here, that's what we did first. Remember, it was exercises first, and then it was exercise order, and then it was reps, sets, tempo, all that good stuff. Awesome. Okay, before I go back and just finish off this presentation, because again, I've gone over time. I need to start making these webinars 75 minutes, not 1 hour. Has anyone got any questions, guys, on the process that we just went through on GPS and actually writing the program? Love it. Okay, cool. Let me take you back now to the presentation. We're going to finish this off. All righty. So for those who joined last week, I am very sorry. I'm going to have to take you through this again, but hey, 2 times better than 1. Okay, let's talk about the course, guys. Very quickly, I'm going to whiz through this. You guys have all said hi to Chris. He's on this call. Hello, Chris. Chris, say hello. He's waving there if you can see him. You might hear his voice in.
Hello again.
Hello again. We have Tammy, who was with us on this call, but I think she has a call with a nutrition client right now. So we are the process education team. Our roles are to be working with our students, you know, providing them with feedback on their assignments. We're constantly updating our course, adding new content, new lessons, finding new features to make it more engaging for our students. What the actual course is. So our individual coaching course has 6 stages. It has the onboarding process. In the onboarding process, we teach you guys how to run an initial consultation, which is basically the very first step of collecting all the essential pieces of information. Then we teach you guys how to do a movement assessment, a body assessment, where we're taking, you know, measurements or body fat measurements, and then we're doing a capacity assessment. So by the end of the onboarding process, you should have all the information you need from a client to get started with session 1. We then go through nutrition and lifestyle. So that's basically where we're talking about, the lifestyle essentials and giving you guys the bare basics on what you can do to start manipulating and making change with people's sleep, stress management, body composition, and all that good stuff. Stage 3, my favorite chapter, is resistance training. Basically, today was a great example of the things that we teach you guys on resistance training. So you're going to learn loads more about things like the strength continuum, talk about, how to develop hypertrophy, myofibrillar versus sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, exercise prescription, how to pair exercises, different bodybuilding splits or different training splits, and just so much more. We go into the weeds and the details when it comes to resistance training. Energy system training, very fancy word for saying Metcon, basic conditioning work. How do we structure that? How do we periodize that? How do we program that over time? If you have a client who's preparing for a half marathon, how can we create a 12-week program that progresses them up to the point where they can crush their race and be successful? If you're someone who works in the CrossFit space and you have someone who wants to improve their Fran time, it's still energy system training. We need to learn the principles of how we can actually do that. Stage 5 is all about combining resistance training with energy system training. So how do we actually do that? A lot of CrossFit gyms especially, they like to do strength training, then conditioning, but that doesn't always work. And there's some basic principles and rules that we have to follow to make that effective. So we'll teach you guys about how to do that and structure that. And the last stage, which I think is the most powerful stage of the whole course, is you as a professional, building your brand, identifying your strengths, identifying your weaknesses, your values. Who do you want to work with? How are you going to serve them? It's a real deep dive into yourself. And, if you're someone who needs things like NASM CEU credits, this is an NASM certified course. This would give you the maximum amount of credits that you can possibly attain, which is 1.9. So, if that's something that's important to you for your CV or just for retaining your license, then we've got you covered. Assessments and assignments. This is, I think, what makes our course pretty unique, is no matter which form of course you choose to do, whether it's a solo or the cohort or the mentorship, for each stage, each of the 6 stages, you're going to be required to submit assignments and assessments. Each stage will include one assignment, which will be about 5 to 10 minutes of work, and then one assessment, about 30 to 60 minutes of work. So what I just did there for you guys, which is taking you guys through a case study, a lot of your assessments are going to be that kind of stuff. We create an avatar, you then have to try and, design a training program, or, read an assessment and pick out the main findings and submit that. One of the big things for us with this course is that we want to ensure that every coach that graduates this course is of a certain level, which means that the assignments and assessments are being reviewed and marked by our education team. And if we feel that the standards aren't quite there, then we're going to give you feedback and give you all the tools so that you can have a second crack at it until you pass it and you're able to do it. So that way, by the end of this course, you are really fully confident on how to do all this stuff. So we do have 3 options for you guys. We have a cohort model, and our next cohort is starting on the 11th of July. We have a mentorship program, which is where we work one-on-one with myself over a 3-month period. And we have the solo option. So just real quick on the cohort model, we have 7 group calls over 3 months, basically a call at the end of each stage to review it, to talk about it, to ask questions. The mentorship is the same. You've got 7 calls, but it's one-on-one. So it can be a bit more curated to things that you need to work on. If you're already a coach and you're working with clients, and we can use your clients as your examples and kind of work through those together. And then lastly, the solo option. This is where you guys will kind of just, the program is, the course is there for you to start whenever you want. It's an evergreen program. You'll still get assignments and assessments, but there are no calls included on that. So just a real quick one. These are our different options in terms of pricing. If you want, take a screenshot of this page now real quick so you can review this. We're going to send you all this information after anyhow, but on the website, all this kind of stuff is there. So if you are someone who likes to learn with a group, then the cohort model is fantastic. If you're someone who really wants to kind of dive into the weeds of this, then the mentorship program is always going to be your best option. But if you're someone who can just self-navigate, go at your own pace, go with the flow, then the solo option is going to be a great option for you guys, and it's a little bit more affordable. Okay, so some key dates and times for this next cohort. The next cohort starts on July 11th. We do still have some space, but it's limited because we don't want to have too many people on that course. The mentorship, which is one-on-one, that's starting in August, is when we'll be taking on our next mentorship student. And then, of course, the solo, where we have unlimited space, you guys can start whenever you are ready. That course is ready to rock and roll now. Just as a quick heads up, the course will take you approximately about 3 months to complete if you were to dedicate 2 hours of studying per week. So what I mean by studying is, you got to get through all the video content, but on top of that, we've also got to submit our assignments and assessments. Of course, if you listen to the videos, 1.5 speed, then you're going to move through that a little bit quicker. Here are cohort times. All calls take place at 5 p.m. Hong Kong time. All calls are recorded and sent to all of our people. So if you have questions, you can submit your questions before and they will be answered on the calls. We have a chat forum for all of our students as well, where you guys can ask questions, share stories, share thoughts, and yeah, it's basically collectively work as a group. So often we find that our students can't make all of the calls, so maybe they can make 50, 60% of that. But that's absolutely fine. You can use that forum to post all your questions. You will watch all the videos anyhow, so you won't miss out on anything. We have a unique offer for you. We gave this last week, but we decided to extend this offer to the 7th of July. So we're giving 10% off to anyone who signs up to the course before the 7th of July. After 7th of July, it will be back to full price. So what we're offering, guys, is 10% off on the course. So the original price of $1,699 is now going to be reduced to $1,529. So you're making about a $170 cost saving. So if you're thinking about this, then now would be the best time to do it. I know it's a big commitment. It's a big financial commitment. It's a big time commitment. So myself and Chris are on hand to kind of answer any of your questions or any of your concerns or thoughts about the course and whether it's the right thing for you. Chris actually offers what we call a strategy call, where we kind of just listen to kind of where you're currently at in your coaching journey and try and kind of offer solutions to help you along the way, whether that's a course or it's not the course. So if you'd like to take that, guys, it's totally free of charge. And Chris is your man, and we will send through the details on how to do that. Final reminder, if you haven't done so already, I would love for you guys to just make sure you've done this in the chat. I'll check this now to make sure everyone's done it. But just so we have your contact details and we can follow up with you guys afterwards. That's super important to us. And I think that's everything from me. Chris, have you got anything that you would like to add?
No, I mean, you covered everything else, so thank you. It's actually nice seeing Meg. She's here and she's in the July cohort, so we can't wait to get started next Thursday. If you have any questions at all, you can also reach out to me on Instagram. I'm part of the Process Education team, so you can find me there. But yeah, it is quite a worthwhile experience. One thing I do want to stress is the value of the feedback that we give. So for example, this whole thing that Ed went through with the case study, that's going to be part of what you would do during the course as well. You're going to be asked to create a case study and we will give you the feedback. So what the feedback looks like is quite thorough on our end, where we're going to go review it. If we have any questions, we'll actually workshop it with each other. So, it's not going to be something that's going to be a simple markup and just give you like that green light to get to the next stage. We really go through and make sure that our standard is upheld as the process education, but also that you're actually learning the values and principles of each of these stages. So that's going to be what I would say is one of the unique factors of what we do here, is that we really do care about your learning. And for every assignment you give us, we will give it the due diligence. So Ed, Tamarind, and myself will be the ones who will be marking it through the week. You should be expecting about a 48-hour turnaround time at most. But yeah, if you have any questions, whether it's your assignments or any of the modules that you watch of the 24 hours of video footage or video content, or just anything at all, we also have our forum. We like to connect to the community. That's the other priority we have on our course is kind of connecting with the whole process banner of connecting with the community and the value of the community. So it's all part of the experience, and really just with all those things considered, we can't wait until next Thursday when we start the next cohort. We hope to see you there.
Nice, Chris. Awesome. Thank you, sir. Has anyone got any questions or thoughts or anything like to share? Adele, you got something on the tip of your tongue. I can see it.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you. That was really helpful, and yeah, I'm glad I joined in time this time.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome, Del. I actually have loved doing these. I think this is probably like the thing within coaching and education I feel I get almost the most satisfaction from.
Yeah.
It's a really enjoyable thing to do the last couple of weeks. So yeah, we will definitely be doing them more often. I think we're kind of setting it in our diaries for maybe something like once every quarter. We're going to put on one of these calls and kind of share some tools on how we can all go away and start making some changes with our clients straight away and ourselves.
I have to say as well, I did do the free course, and I really enjoyed that. That was really, really good.
Awesome. Thank you, Del. Appreciate the feedback. Okay, guys. Well, I won't keep you any longer. Once again, this has not been an hour's call, but we will change this to a 90-minute call going forward, won't we, Chris? But thank you everyone for joining.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, hopefully see some of you guys on the July 11th cohort. I know I'll be seeing Meg for sure. But yeah, if you have any questions, reach out on social media. Reach out to Chris. Chris will send a follow-up email with this recording, and just a few other links that you guys can dive into to learn more about it. But this was great. Really enjoyed seeing your faces, and have yourselves a lovely night.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Ed. Chris.
Chris.
Thank you. See you guys.
See you guys.
Thank you,
Thank you so much. That was great.